Hello and welcome back to Weekly Recap. This is our week 7 recap, going into week 8, and Justin, my co-host, joins me, and we got a lot of
Hello.
playoff information for you this week. So, here we go. Let's hop right into it, Justin. Let's look at what our standings look like after or our schedule from last week. How about? So, if we look at week 7, right off the bat, Vincent wins by 5 over Zach. I win by 5 over Josh. Justin loses by 2 to Ethan. Aiden loses by 1 to David. Kyler wins over Chris. Titus wins over Roman. Alex wins over Hunter. Jacob loses to Caden by 5. Justin, the first thing I see about this is so many lopsided games in this
Yeah,
in this one. We
abs-
have multiple games that went 5-0, and we have multiple games that went,
just
uh,
by one.
just by one. So, no kind of usual games. I feel like this
Hmm.
week it was either
Yeah,
close or a blowout.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. And it's a lot of great play. Even it's like because both sides are playing well, then it's like closer to even. It's like a 1-1 game, and then whenever you look at these other games that are more lopsided, it was just excellent play and planning by these coaches, getting their guys ready and having the Mons come out playing excellent games and getting them a landslide victory. However, surprisingly, a lot of the landslide victories did not really shake up any playoff standings or anything. Um, Obviously, yours and Coach Caden's big wins just kind of cemented the 1 and 2 seed. Um, you guys might switch around this week, depends on what happens, but it just kind of increased the gap and solidified your playoff entrance. But outside of that, it didn't really shake up the middle half of the standings.
absolutely. We look at these, and Vincent versus Zach knocked Zach out of the playoffs, and potentially gives Vincent a shot ish to come
Mm.
back.
Anything's
But it
possible.
is a little tough for him, and especially with his week 8 matchup. And then Caden taking out Jacob and putting him in the out of the playoffs right there as well. Me taking out Josh was somewhat of a biggish deal, mostly because Josh now really struggles to make playoffs.
Mhm.
He's in a very similar position, actually worse position than Vincent, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah,
yeah, and though we do have a match that we'd like to bring up for this week,
absolutely.
and that's going to be Coach Chris, the Orlando Magic Garp versus Six Dittos and Coach Kyler from this week. Justin, what a
Yeah,
match!
absolutely. It was a great one to watch. A lot of back and forth. Never really could tell who was going to win.
No, until the very
You'd be
end.
exactly. You'd be thinking maybe, oh, maybe they have a shot. This one's going to win, and then it would immediately switch and be like, oh, never mind. Uh, you wish you could say it was 100% just great gameplay. That's just not the case. There were some mistakes made. Some hindsight's 2020. You can look back and be like, that decision probably wasn't the best. Um, Shocked to see. I mean, Greninja walks out of here with 3 kills, but if I'm not mistaken, he was not battle boosted, no,
No, that was
or
a
battle bond.
protein Greninja with just the choice
Yeah.
scarf, finishing the game out, closing those last 3 kills as well. Really clutching the game up for Kyler.
Mm.
Um, which, as I said, I believe last week, Coach Kyler, if he wants to start winning, needs to start leaning on that Greninja, and right away, it pays off. Greninja taking 3 kills, closing out the game, and excellent sweeper. There's a reason he's
Absolutely,
priced at the top of the league, and there's a reason that he's a top tier threat and one of the top killers of all time.
absolutely, and it's he's just such a system enhancer. You add him to your team, and he has so much potential. And it's great to see him play like this. Really came in clutch for Coach Kyler. However, talking about Coach Kyler, Coach Chris not having, a veteran coach in the league, but he's not having the best season. He's sitting there at 12th spot in the leaderboard. We were talking about this was the opportunity for Coach Kyler to really boost his point differential and lock himself in the playoffs. And even though now he's virtually safe from playoff elimination, you would have that organization would have rather had a bigger win to feel more comfortable and getting ready for the playoffs.
Absolutely, and since he's not technically guaranteed, he can still be eliminated from this position. All he needed was a single additional point differential. So, I mean, I think, this was a pretty big upset, and I think this is kind of a win in Chris's book, too, because I think this was a tough matchup, and, he ended up playing it well and taking it down to the last Pokemon, so.
Absolutely, and even though the Orlando Magikarp on a 4-game losing streak right now, somehow it feels like the team it's gaining momentum. It feels like even though they're on a losing streak, it feels like there's some smaller wins in there that they can take to regroup and get ready for next season.
Absolutely, I've been quite impressed with Coach Chris throughout the season. So
absolutely,
I think he's still learning, but I feel like this system and the Orlando Magikarp could really pull through in the next couple seasons. So,
and if you look back through the schedule, I just looked at it. Here are the point differentials for the past 4 games. So he loses by 1 to Kyler, loses by 2 to me and my Charger Bugs, loses by 1 to the Miami Palafins and Zach, loses by 1 to Ethan and the San Francisco Arcaniners. So he's keeping the games close, and then if a couple of rolls go a different way, this might be a completely different looking team.
I do remember multiple crits mattering against him. I remember the infamous Psycho Boost crit from Deoxys Speed absolutely demolishing him at the end of that game in one of the craziest finishes we've ever seen. So I feel like this team is low in the standings, but he shouldn't be this low in the standings. He could a couple rolls go his way, and he probably would be 4-3 right now, right, with the rest of the crowd.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Let's move on to how our actual standings look, rather than just talking about them. What a crowd we have here, Justin. We got. So let's start with those who have been eliminated from playoff contention. To nobody's surprise, the bottom here is the Miami Palafins and the Planet of Annihilates. Both of these two, minus 16, 2 and 5. It's not even possible anymore. It really wasn't possible much earlier, but this week truly cemented that. So,
and if I'm not mistaken, all of these 2 and 5 teams completely eliminated, correct?
Absolutely. So that includes Field Team 6, Big Stepper, and the Orlando Magikarp. All of them are completely out of playoff contention. There's nothing more they could do to make playoffs at all.
Yeah, and we were talking about this all season. Whenever you start getting into that lower differential, it's like, you start talking about playoffs, and towards the end of the season, it gets harder and harder to fight back in. But I'm just, I was just really entertained that it took this long for definite playoff elimination. I think it kept a lot of these fan bases and organizations more invested. And even though you're not in the playoffs, even if you're at the bottom of the leaderboard, it's not the end of the world.
It's always next season.
Exactly. And I keep working back on it. Last season, this wasn't years and years ago. Last season, Coach Alex did not win a single game. And then now
27.
He is... Exactly. And now he is in the... Is that real? 27?
Yes, that is real.
Lord.
Actually, it might have been worse.
Oh, God. Let's get a fact check.
Let me fact check that before we continue.
Yeah.
Yes, Justin, that is in fact real. He was at negative 30 in season.
Lordy.
So even lower in season.
Yeah.
Season 3.
a feat that we're probably never going to see again with the expanded league.
Hopefully.
Maybe time will only tell. But now he's in the 7th spot, fighting for a playoff position. So truly, there is always next season. You flip over your roster. You play against different rosters. It's completely different look. Who knows what's going to happen? And next season especially is going to look different because we are going to be switching over to PAL decks, and so that is going to be a big change of scenery. And I'm excited to see how these lower tier teams bounce back from this season.
Absolutely, and there's with PAL decks there will be a whole new feel, a whole new vibe. Some players will perform better at lower powers. Some players will perform much worse, and we also not many people in the league have much experience with the lower power league spread out over 16 people. So a little bit more of an even playing field than prior seasons.
Absolutely. And then I'm sorry.
Go for it.
And then if we move up from the 2 and 5, we have 3 and 4 with the Milwaukee Milk Tanks and the Federal for Alligators. Technically speaking, not eliminated if they win big and if these low 4 and 3 teams lose big. But all they can do, they can't control the outside factors, so all they can do is go into this last week playing their best, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a tough show, especially for the Milwaukee Milk Tanks there at -7. They're going to not only need people to lose, but they need the lower seeded teams to lose as well. So they need both the Charge Bugs, the Arcanines both to lose, because even the Avalugs, if they lost by 6, would still be tying their record. So
exactly. So
it is quite tough.
I mean, it is tough, but technically not impossible. Still playing for something.
I do think that the for Alligators are potentially possible. They have a very tough week 8, if I do say so myself. But
some would say that, yeah.
Anything is possible. As for the next few teams, this is where things get interesting, though. These are the teams that are really fighting for this playoff contention. Almost all of these 4 and 3 teams will get in, but the one will be eliminated. And the question is who will get snubbed? So in this group, we have...
Yeah, it's a sad sight, truly.
We have the Houston Haunters, the Why Not Us, the Colorado Avalugs, the San Francisco Arcanines, and the Los Angeles Charge Bugs. It is going to come down to who can win and who loses this week for basically who's the last place. So teams like the Charger Bugs and the Arcanines, they're going to need to win big. Teams like the Haunters just need a little nudge. They need a little nudge and they can get in. Same with the Avalugs and the Why Not Us. They just need a little nudge. Arcanines and Charge Bugs need a big win. Maybe somebody has to lose, and they can nudge in. But really, this is where all the excitement is going to come down to this week: is how these teams are playing. Interestingly enough, none of these teams play each other this week.
No.
So they are going in against teams that have either guaranteed playoffs or have already been eliminated.
So technically, any variation of teams can make it. There's no independent factors of if this happens, it's if these 2 teams are playing, so only one of them can make it. It's just about anything is possible.
There's a lot of cogs moving in this machine here.
Exactly. And it might not, we were really harking on the point differential throughout the season, but realistically, it's probably going to go this week. It probably will?
Yeah, it probably will. So, I'm almost positive it will, mostly because when you look at what the schedule is going to shape out to be, you have, a lot of these teams are favored in their matchups.
Yes.
So you're probably going to end up with, or they're unfavored. So what it's going to come down to is half of these teams probably win. So you'll probably get like 5 and 6 seed will be guaranteed with a 5 and 3 team, whereas
Gotcha.
7, 8 will both probably be
A 4 and 4 team.
will be a 4 and 4 team that is won by differential. Now, of course, all of them could win, and bring this into differential as well. All of them could lose, but if you start mixing it, it starts to come down to differential anyway. So
Gotcha. That makes sense.
we're coming down to the point where differential really mattered this season. And, you can make it, these last few teams can make it to where wins are going to be the big deciding factor. But for some teams, it will be differential that makes the difference on who wins and who loses.
Yep. And so you look at some of these matchups. You look at number 2 seed Coach Caden.
Speaking
And,
of, we'll go ahead and we'll come
so
through
yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
these let's finish up the standings real quick. We have one other team that has not guaranteed playoffs, and it's Coach Kyler in that 4th seed is literally 1 point off of playoff guarantees.
Yep.
Though he's functionally in it, so any non-6-0 from either him or Coach Justin immediately locks him in. So, or a win for Kyler. So, yeah, it's pretty easy for him to make it. Not much to talk about here. Nobody's particularly surprised that Kyler's made it. Interestingly enough, these top 3 teams, almost throughout the season, the Phoenix Ferrets, Driftville Rangers, and Dallas Steel Wings have all guaranteed playoffs. And the interesting thing about all these 5 and 2 teams, Justin, is that all of them are former finalists of previous leagues.
It's the rich get richer, as they say. I don't know. It just shows the value of experience in a league like this, and those top 4, minus one of them who is kind of shaky.
Experience
Coach Caden,
at losing, in
Coach,
the finals.
Exactly. Coach Caden has a lot of experience losing to superior competition in the finals specifically. So I guess that counts as experience. But nonetheless, shows that being a veteran in this league, it does help you out because they know how to win. They know how to get other teams into favorable scenarios to get into the playoffs.
Absolutely, and they know how to build a very strong team, strong winning culture at their organization, and how to prep the opposing side. So now let's go ahead. Let's toss out our schedule for. Actually, let's go ahead knock out our MVP race. For
Looks a little different
for this week. Comfey has been climbing for a little while. At the top now, finally. I wasn't expecting this. Bax really did nothing this week. King Gambit climbing a little bit. Gouging did nothing. Halucha did nothing except lose some points. Annihilate is suddenly here. Heatran, Chien Pao, Tapu Lele, Urshifu Single Strike. Greninja's up as well. Anything you'd like to point out other than Comfey being...
Yeah, I mean, Comfey, you get 11 kills in the past 2 weeks. It's gonna happen. That player is just really strong. Coach Caden really stumbling with it, truly throughout the season, just not really knowing how to use it when he plays against teams like, the Houston Haunters or the Phoenix Ferrets. Comfey is, a nullified factor. And that just shows, the unwillingness to expand your strategies and to really prep fully for your games. Kind of stumbling into those and letting Comfey really just being like, I'm not going to listen to my coach. I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to play ball. And that's exactly what he did. But outside of that, it's interesting seeing Baxcalibur just staying up there. I mean, obviously he's a very skilled Pokemon, very highly rated, but his team is only 2-5, but he's really stood out and been carrying a bulk of the offensive power on that team.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive. Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that, honestly. Another Mon that's very has been quite interesting, I think, has been Tapu Lele kind of moving up in the standings for once on Coach Ethan's team, and probably the only reason it's his team is still in playoff contention at this point. Kind of been carrying the team, not that Sneasler isn't down there, but, for the most part, it's been a Tapu Lele show over there. And, for the Sun team to really be relying on Psychic Terrain, I think is very interesting. And, a little bit out of the way.
I think it just goes to show the strength of Tapu Lele really not shying away, being like, I know this is a Sun team, but I'm still going to get some mines. And so really just showing out. And a theme with a lot of the top spots is most of them are sweeping. And that's how they're getting like these high kill counts, right? But Tapu Lele just, grinding in, just, 2-3 kills every week consistently, just, going up and, claiming a top spot in the top 10. And it's a great mon. It did damage to my team last week. And it's a, powerhouse, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it maybe drafted earlier in this next upcoming season.
Well, with the change to Paldea decks, we will not have Tapu Lele, but
drafted in the Chinese league, I guess. But
in the future, I can definitely imagine Tapu Lele being a very high priority target for a lot of teams. Yeah. So that, and I think Heatran. I know we haven't talked about him in a little while because he's been just chilling up here, but he has consistently been grinding his way up along with Chi and Pao.
Only 2 deaths.
Only 2 deaths for both of them. They have the same stat line up there. And, they've just been grinding away. I think all of these Pokemon are, going to be high priority targets in the future, especially with, the success that the Phoenix Birds have been seeing this season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great players and on a great team. And, it's not surprising to see, especially Chi and Pao, most, efficient Pokemon in League history. And, he's only just going to, good organization.
Yeah.
And
great logo.
He's pretty good logo. Yeah.
All right. So moving on, let's go ahead and look at our matchups for next week. So to lead it off, we got Vincent versus myself, Justin versus Zach, Aiden versus Josh, Kyler versus Ethan, Titus versus David, Hunter versus Chris, Jacob versus Roman, and Caden versus Alex.
So this is where what we were talking about the standings earlier.
Where some of these plays each other that matters.
And some of these teams, it's going to be very interesting. Some of these teams that already have locked their spot in the playoffs, they have the potential to shape what the playoff picture is going to be. So, because in the past, obviously, we've seen the meme battles, right? But now it's almost like it has real weight, these games, because, if Caden beats Alex, Alex is out of the playoffs, essentially. Barring some other stuff that happens, or he's just in a bad spot. If David beats Titus, like these are games that are just so important, and one team is not in any threat, but the other, their season's on the line. So it's going to be very interesting to see how some of these games play out. And there's one in particular that I think catches our eye. And that's going to be Kyler and the 6 Dittos having
against Ethan and San Francisco Arcanines. Yeah, this game is going to be interesting. Not only is it a decent matchup, and it's there's some seasons on the line, but on top of that, it's a double Sun matchup. So, do they go for Sun? Do they avoid Sun to keep their the other person without Sun? Do they just go like, my Sun is better than yours? Like, who's gonna, or do they both just assume the other person's gonna bring Sun? It's kind of a weird Sun mind game here. And,
absolutely.
It's also dangerous to set your own Sun against the Sun's sweeper. that they have, because then they get the free turn. There's a lot of mind games to be played in the dual Sun matchup, so I'm quite excited to see how this game plays out. Not only just from a playoff standpoint, but just from an entertainment standpoint. I think this game can be very, very interesting and multi-layered.
Absolutely. I mean, rookie coach Ethan looking for, in his first season to get a playoff spot. And Coach Kyler, like we said, former finalist, veteran coach, looking to once again cement his place in the playoffs, potentially make a championship run. Going off the Sun thing, though, I think that just looking at this, I think Six Ditto's roster without Sun feels more comfortable than the Arcaniners without Sun. So I think Kyler could be safe not bringing Sunsetter and just playing his game. And if Coach Ethan brings the Sunsetter, Kyler's like, perfect. That just helps me out, and then I'll be able to adjust accordingly.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Coach Kyler has a very impressive team to begin with, and adding Sun to it is just good stuff. It's just a nice addition, whereas I feel like Ethan really needs to have Sun to really cement a strong presence on the battlefield. Absolutely. But, I mean, there's still options for Ethan without Sun. There's the Tapu Lele and Sneasler core where he can start getting Psychic Terrain going and speed up with the, that Unburden set. And that can be very threatening to most teams. And the other option is to just chew and, delete things with funny fire moves from the funny fire fish. So.
Yeah, I mean, Chiyu only being brought in one match this entire season, a very highly rated player, a very good player. Shocking, really, that we haven't seen him more. Chiyu's a professional. He hasn't been, complaining about his lack of playtime or anything, but I assume he's sitting on the bench being like, I can help this team win. And I think from an offensive power standpoint, I think he could be really useful this week just to bring a funny button to press whenever he needs it.
I think it's very powerful as well to, soften some of the blows so that Sneasler can just come in and finish the game. Right now, Tapu Lele has been the one who's kind of been softening the things, but I think that role should belong to Chiyu. But, it's kept him in the playoff race, so,
absolutely.
He's cooking something this season. Even if I think it could be done better.
Yeah. Very curious to see how Mega Mawile does in this game also. Just a quick point out, because kind of been, I don't want to say underperforming, but, talking to Coach Kyler, he's definitely wanted to get the most out of Mega Mawile. I feel like as of this point in the season, I haven't really seen it truly take shape and go the distance that Coach Kyler could see it going.
Absolutely. Though I think some of that is because Mega Mawile commands such a presence in prep that's kind of causing the other team to build their team in such a way that doesn't allow Mega Mawile to play, but it's allowing Kyler to win.
Absolutely, yes.
So I think it's kind of paving the way for the rest of the team. Whether or not that's, been the case or not, it's hard to tell, intangibles in that case, but I think its presence has been a big deal for the team. Other than that, I believe that is all we have for this week. Plenty of things to go around, and we will return for our final week and give you guys the full playoff bracket, where everybody lands, how those matchups will go, or how we think those matchups might turn out, and next week's weekly recap. So we'll see you then, and good luck in your matches, and see you next week.
Good luck, guys.